Hey, we want to welcome here. I hope everybody got enough to eat at lunchtime. How was that carrot cake?
Oh, thanks, Mike. I had to leave before it was
You
served.
left before the carrot
Yeah,
cake?
it's
You didn't take it with you?
no,
No? You gave it away.
gave it away
Good for you.
to somebody
Good
who needed it. Jet Roberts.
Good for you.
Great.
All right, so I should say good afternoon. Welcome to the 41st CALLERLAB Convention in Reno, Nevada. Today is April the 14th, 2014. 14? Yeah, 4/14/14. There's got to be something significant about that. And the name of this session is Working with Others. My name is Mike Seastrom. I'm from Los Angeles, California. Our other panelist is Joe Saltel from Far, Texas. And we'd like to welcome you. We're looking forward to this session, but we're primarily looking forward also to having others speak up a little bit on their experiences and what they're doing and what's worked for them. So there's a number of different ways you can look at working with others. First of all, we can look at working with others at a dance, with another caller, at a particular event. We can look at working with other callers at a weekend. We can also look at working with callers in our regional area where we're trying to coordinate our dance programs, our new dancer programs, our new dancer events, at caller associations. I think one of the things that I was probably disappointed with for many, many years at CALLERLAB was that I felt when I first joined CALLERLAB and that there was this lack of respect for, because we've all got a niche in this activity, no matter what we do, whether you call challenge, whether you call basics, whether you do one-night stands, whatever is your niche at that particular time, because we all go through phases in this, that every one of us that picks up this microphone and that goes through the effort to do what we do deserves the same amount of respect. And I was flying home from a CALLERLAB convention many years ago with Bob Osgood, and I was just kind of fuming, and he recognized the fact that I was fuming, and he said to me, he said, what do you see? I said, I just can't believe the lack of respect. It seems like the guys, the Hall of Famers, the people that are my heroes, there's a level of respect amongst them, but there's this kind of angst that goes on that is kind of under the current. And he said, we recognize that. I recognize that. And he said, and I recognize the fact that it may be a number of years before we kind of get over that hump, before we kind of look at each other and we kind of realize how we all deserve this amount of respect for what we do, for the part of this activity that we all play, and we really need each other. And so by working together and giving that each other that respect, I just think our activity is elevated that much higher. He said to me, he said, Mike, I don't think in my lifetime I'll ever see that really happen. He says, because we've got a lot of issues we're trying to work through. He says, but I think in your lifetime you'll see it. And it was at the 2011 CALLERLAB convention in Las Vegas, where I really felt like we had turned a corner. And I still feel that today, that this is the one place where you can go, where the others you work with, where your heroes become your peers, where everybody, whether it's a first-time attendee or you've been here a million times, there's a level of respect amongst callers that is the best that we've had it so far. And I'm pleased, and I think this is part of where we are with our topic today and working with others, is respecting everybody in your area, everybody that you come in contact with that picks up this microphone and teaches. We can all share information with each other. We can all help each other. We're all going to deliver our own presentation of material, but by sharing that material and by sharing that knowledge of teaching and the other things that we do, I think that as an activity, we're gonna shoot forward and move forward and do a lot better than if we're struggling and fighting with each other. So this is about working with others. Joe, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you work with it. If you, by just the last mention, if you want to speak, and we'd love to have you speak, I'll run the mic around and we'll have you speak on the microphone because this session is being recorded. So, Joe?
Well, we're doing this together, basically, and I appreciate that. Let's have a nice hand for Mike Seastrom. Appreciate it, Mike. And I agree totally with everything you just said. I've had that problem, too. I think especially a lot of us who started calling when we were very young. Very young. I started calling at 8 when I was up in Northern California, and I didn't know anything. I didn't know what really existed outside of my little circle. We were just in kind of a smaller town until I started traveling, and I met people like the Mikes and the rest of I was a California kid just like the rest of you guys. And but I also experienced the same thing with the older, more experienced callers, and it took a long time to be respected. But I think everybody needs to respect each other because we all have our place in this activity. And so, hi, Mike. I want to work with you, man. Working with you, baby. Yeah. All right. You work with me, huh? Work with me. Work with me. So going down this list of making something happen, it starts with dance, doing a dance with another caller or another 2 callers or 3, whatever, multi-caller weekends. I think part of working with each other is respecting each other, like we just spoke, and there are different ways to phrase. I've worked with some callers who approach you, and let's say you're trying to decide what songs to do, first song of the festival or whatever, and they'll come up and they'll say, I think we should do. You know who a lot of the guys we're talking about. So I think we should do this song, and I think we should do it this way. However, I think phrasing it differently approaching somebody differently, such as, how about if we, or why don't we, or what do you think about this, as opposed to telling another caller what you think you should do, because that just sets the precedent of, okay, well, he's the leader, we're going to do everything he says, as opposed with working with each other. And I think cooperation is the whole thing. Just some of the things I've experienced. What do you think, Mike?
You know, it's funny that you say that. A lot of times you'll start out, and this could be just a single dance. I mean, obviously, if you've got the opportunity to, before you ever have that dance, to sit down with somebody or to send email each other a list of songs that you do with other people, or and particularly if it's a situation where if you like to sing the melody and you feel more comfortable singing the melody, that just spit that out, and the other guy sings the harmony part, like Joe sings the harmony part. I sing a harmony part, but between us, somebody takes the melody, somebody takes the harmony, but having that out ahead of time is really a help. If none of you sing harmony, being able to pass the mic back and forth instead of sing on top of each other is maybe a better thing to do. You know, pass the mic back and forth, or pass the parts back and forth. But the bottom line, I think, is if you have the opportunity to pre-plan and can pick songs that you both know, and then you have the luxury of having the time to practice a little bit before time, being able to pick out a song where both of you could go through the opener, a figure, the middle break, and go through the closer of the song, just so that you got that part down. And it's fun to be able to just write that down. Okay, we got that song. Joe, you're singing the lead. Don't forget the grand square on the Indian, and you've got the signs that each other, signs, or sides, or you take it, or whatever. I've always felt like the person that's singing the lead or the melody is the person that, when all else falls, they're still singing, but that kind of thing. And I think the best thing is to have fun with each other and work with each other, and to try to make the best product that's going out there for the dancer that you can make out of it.
Well, of course, because we want the dancers to win. That's basically why we're there. If there weren't dancers, we wouldn't be there. So we want them to enjoy it, and we want to enjoy it as well. So, but that is something new, doing something ahead of time. I don't think I've ever done that before. You've never emailed me before and said, "Hey, Joe, how about
back when we started working together, Joe, we didn't have email. That was before the internet. So
fax, maybe.
I didn't even think
you never
that.
call,
Yeah.
You never write.
I know, I never wrote. I know. Telephone call, I think it was. So if you do have the time to practice, that's always good. It always makes it a little bit better. And as I said, plan the opener, the middle break, the close of the tag. How many songs do you need? Write it down. The other thing that if you're going to have a theme, and it's a lot of times when 2 callers are calling together and we're doing the patter together, we're just keeping the floor dancing, but there's no real theme in it. But a lot of us over the years have found it a real fun thing. Joe will call a little bit of a thing, and I, instead of not paying attention or making faces at the dancers, I'll kind of pay attention a little bit, see what he's calling, and try to move right with that, that same theme that he's doing, and working it again from maybe he works it from the heads, I'll work it from the sides. He might dig a little deeper, I might dig a little deeper, and the thing is we're working together, and all of a sudden we're on tune with the same theme instead of just kind of winging it along, and I do my figure and you do your figure and whatever, and that works really well. If you have the opportunity to say, hey, let's work some tag the lines this time, and maybe a spin chain through or something, and just before you start the patter out, that's kind of fun because you can be able to work a little bit together. And
spin chain through?
Yeah, okay. I know.
It's still on the list, yes.
It is still on the list.
Only at mainstream. So, yes, I agree with what Mike said. He reiterated everything I've actually written down here that I can't read because I don't have my reading glasses. So it's terrible.
Does anybody have reading glasses?
Yeah.
I love it.
My God, he's going to save us. Oh, my gosh. Oh,
all right, Dan. Yes.
Let me see which style I like best here.
Okay. Is that going to work for you?
This. Oh, my God. Is this being recorded?
We've got some more in the back. You want to try another?
These are just fine. These are fine.
All right, good. All right, we got you set.
Another thing that recently I've just realized is such a huge help. If you're at a multi-level, multi-hall festival, multi-caller festival. This just happened to me last weekend. I did a singing call, and an hour later, one of the other callers called the same song in the same hall, and just we forgot to write. It really is helpful. It sounds really silly and simple. Just put a piece of paper here, put singers, and just write down the ones you've done, because I don't know how many times that's happened. But I did talk to some of the dancers after the other caller called it, and most of them didn't realize it was the same song. So I don't know if that's a good thing or if that's really a bad thing. I have no idea.
You're exactly right. Maybe it didn't even sound like this.
It was on Blue Star, by the way. So just thought I'd let you know, buddy. He's not in the room, so what can I say? I think I'm in trouble. This is being recorded, right?
This is being recorded, okay. Yes, that's right.
Good Lord. Okay, also, be sure to share credit. Be sure to compliment the other caller. It's just these little things that really make a difference, and the camaraderie on stage makes a world of difference. If you're on separate ends of the stage and not really interacting that much, it's not a good show for anybody, really. You don't feel good, the dancers don't feel it. But if you're together and you're joking with each other like, whatever, why'd you call that? We're on the ending, what are you doing? Something like that, the dancers, they become part of it, and it all becomes part of a party. And I think that's the secret, really. I think that's really the secret to making it work. So.
A couple years ago, Ed Foote gave a great keynote speech, and part of that speech was how lucky we are as callers to have the privilege and the ability to take dancers out there outside of themselves and outside of the problems of their daily life and show them a good time and have a good time with them. I mean, how nice is that? And Ed even commented, and it's truly a Ed Footism, is he'll go around and say, "Oh, you're dancing so good," but part of that is that ability to make people feel good about themselves, and that's a neat thing. Ever since hearing that keynote address, I really realized what a great tool we have. What a great tool we have, even with our own family and our own kids. How nice is it to tell your kid how proud you are of them, or whatever it is to make them feel good about themselves. And I think making the dancers feel good about themselves, making the callers you're working with feel good about themselves, and having a fun time at the same time looks really good on the stage. It feels really good. The dancers get into it, and the whole theme of the dance surrounds that theme. So realize that tool is really an important tool, and you can use it in your classes. You can use it in your dances. You can use it on your weekends or any kind of thing like that. It's a great tool, especially your people that are helping you out with the classes, your coordinators and things like that. Being able to thank them and publicly acknowledge them and reward them is a huge thing. But again, the working with other callers on the stage, there's all of us have our strengths, all of us have our weaknesses, and you work together around those things and to get the best product you can going out. I think that makes a huge difference.
And also a good thing is to be sensitive as to the other callers' health and other concerns and their strengths and weaknesses. I think you mentioned that one. But you know, if your other caller or one of the other callers or two of the other callers, if somebody doesn't feel good or whatever, you know, just make sure that you're doing maybe more than your part to make the whole show work, because it's, you know, it's.
Go ahead.
Yes. Yes. I saw him lift his mic, and I'm very sensitive to my teammate here.
No, I think Joe's right. You're sensitive to each other's strengths and weaknesses, and you work with each other. You're not trying to outdo one another, and I think that's the most important thing, because that doesn't look real good as it goes out there. We were talking about events, and we were talking about writing down singing calls, and if you are rotating halls, those, and every once in a while you work at a festival where there'll be changeovers between callers working halls, and there's a regional caller that's in there doing that tip while you're making the transition from one hall to the other, and to be able to thank that person and recognize that person and even jump up and sing with them or whatever is good fun. I think, and you probably feel the same way, Joe, that I call a lot of dances by myself. So anytime I get a chance to call with another caller, I'm always game. Yeah, I'm on it in a minute. You know, I really like it, and I think particularly with the newer callers in the area, if you don't have a lot of callers in your dance and you can bring that person up, that's huge. That's just huge. Hunter, why don't you come up here and talk on the mic since your hand's up? And
I just have a question for you. What do you do if you have more than one caller in the hall?
Well, that's the tough one. I mean,
that's very tough.
That's tough, because you can come up as a group and call together. You can sometimes have callers split tips, but you're absolutely right. Sometimes if you've got 3 or 4 callers in the hall, you just can't do it. And so and that's really a heartbreak for me, because if there's 1 or 2 in there that maybe is brand new and could use the experience, and the other guys are usually a caller or 2 will say, you know, no, I come with this. I dance with this club all the time or whatever. But the bottom line is that if you can get them on, great. And the other thing is sometimes you'll call in for clubs that they have it written in your contract. You know, you're going to have the club's president's approval before you have anybody else call. And so there's that attitude there. I think that you just got to be able to read that as you go along.
Thank you. Charlie Fagan. In regard to that, rule of thumb used to be if you had more than 3 callers in the hall, it was just honorable just to introduce them all and recognize that they came to your dance.
Charlie Fagan's in the hall.
That's a good number, Charlie. That's 3, because you get more than that, it's really difficult. Any other comments, questions, concerns, issues?
The other team matter we have to be considerate too if we're working with a round dance cuer. I've heard multiple complaints from cuers about callers coming up, making a bunch of racket while they're doing pre-rounds and not showing any respect for them as they're trying to put their program on. And that left a nice etch in my brain that make sure I get there before they start their pre-round, set my equipment up that way. I'm not violating their time.
That really is a handy thing. When I finally learned that it's better to get there earlier and set yourself up and get off the stage, and then I learned around this. I like to do the pre-round, so that's good for me too. Or it gets you a chance to get around and talk with people before the hall. So you're absolutely right.
There's a point I'd like to ask you about here, Mike, because you're the one that added this. It says event escorts.
You know, I love this.
Could you talk about that? I've never had one. I've never had one before. You?
I love this. I think it is the neatest concept that I have ever seen. Not many festivals have it, but every once in a while you go in and you have a couple that's your escorts for that weekend. And what they do is they just make sure you got some water or coffee or that if you get stuck going from one hall to the next, they'll take your case and wheel it off and set up your mic, and so that when you finally break through and get there, that your stuff is there and it's already set up, and it's really that's what I meant.
That's what you meant by escort.
Escort.
Well, I had a completely different idea. I'm sorry. I thought I was missing out. My contract never had that.
Listen, if you have the ability to influence people that run a festival, that callers are coming in and there's any distance between halls and there's tight times to get there. First of all, I love the transition. If there's a caller that can call a tip between the time you got to get from hall to hall, that's terrific. But if there isn't, and you've got to get there, you got to hoof it, and it's nice because you're getting stopped on the way, or somebody's, sign a book or whatever, and it's really nice if you have an escort that can help you. Sometimes they just run, they're your blocker, they're your fullback, and you're following them through. Phil, come on forward.
Yeah, it's kind of fun when you got one of the escorts and you're trying to get between halls, and they act like blockers. I mean, people come up and talk, no, he can't go. You got to get out of the way. And that's what they do. That's it. Yeah. And it's like you're playing football and you got your blocker up there, and they'll get you right through. They'll get you right to the hall. It's kind of fun. It's like, hey, I feel pretty good. Now look at this. I got my own linebacker here.
You're absolutely right. Would Phil be the perfect escort? Bring it on through. So that's what I meant by event escorts, people that help you out a little bit.
Thanks for clarifying that, Mike. I appreciate that. Now, there's one problem that I've encountered the last few years. Actually, Mike put down here in our notes that in consideration of callers' health, no more than 7 hours in one day. How many have called more than 7 hours at a festival in one day? I don't know how to address this. We've tried talking to the chairman and the committees and everything like that. Recent festival I called, I think it was 18 hours in 2 days, and that was way too many hours. Yeah, you were there. But anybody have any ideas? Has anybody successfully addressed this with any committees or?
This is actually on the CALLERLAB contract. So if any of you get one of you can pull it right off their website. If a club or an event asks you to send them a contract, you've already agreed, with the fees and such, and you can send them a CALLERLAB contract. Go ahead and do that. It says right on there, in consideration of the caller's health and ability to provide quality programming, CALLERLAB recommends that callers not be scheduled for more than 7 hours in any day, and it appears on the CALLERLAB contract. So it's something that, again, if you have the ability to influence the schedule on a weekend or on an event, and you can kind of put forward that comment, it says it down on our contract, and I think it makes for a better weekend for everybody, because you get somebody that's really tired and run down, and that makes a big difference. Hunter, do you want to say something about that?
I was just thinking, on the CALLERLAB contract, it says that they recommend it. It doesn't say you have to follow that. It only says recommend. So some of them will throw that in your face and say, well, it only recommends that you only call 7 hours a day or less. I'm paying you, so I'm gonna ask you to call 9 or 10. So maybe that's something else to address too. If you're writing the contracts, write in there, I will not call more than, and do it nicely. Don't, be like me. But thank you.
Good point.
Yeah, I think anytime you can influence that makes a big difference. Rainey?
I have a few contracts coming up in the next few years that actually pay you by the hour that you do call. So there's a few festivals that are starting to think about that. And you're calling 18 hours and you're making $100 an hour, maybe you don't mind it. But some of them are actually, quoting you a per hour price now.
Well, could you give me some addresses and phone numbers?
There you go. Or per session. Or some groups are charging per session, and I think that's another way that some of the groups are doing it too, as well. Yeah. We're down to talking about events. We're talking also about a particular dance. Any comments or questions about events or dances before we go on to our other part of this? Anybody have any comments about that? Okay. Very good.
That was easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and sometimes on an event and a dance, you can say, hey, the other thing you can talk about is hey, are you going to wear blue, black, or, so that if Joe wears red and I wear orange, we don't look like, kind of a mess on the stage. So, oh, good. All right, you betcha.
One of the events that Scott and I work with is the Golden State Roundup in the San Francisco Bay Area. And Joe will be glad to know that when we're doing the program once again this year, we're programming the callers for an hour and a half on and then a half an hour off. Plus.
Is that for 24 hours?
Yeah, well, for you. You get a special program. Ask Rick Hampton about that. But anyway, and not to mention the fact that they get plenty of time for lunch and dinner, but we give them that extra half an hour, and our local callers, of which Scott is one, come in and fill in those times so that the featured callers, you actually get a chance to use the restroom. My God, what a concept. The other thing that Golden State Roundup does that I have not seen, and I'm sure someone else does it, but I haven't seen it, is right after dancing is over on Sunday evening, they gather the callers, the sound chairman, and the callers' partners, and the round dance cuers together in a room, and they do what I call the debrief. And they ask each and every one of them, what did you think about the festival? What was good? What was bad? What could we improve on? What parts should we keep? And again, it's not just the callers, but their partners as well. And because all of those people have valuable insight into what was making the dancers happy and what's going to keep the callers happy and healthy so they can make the dancers happy.
I guess I should have brought my wife last time to that one.
Very good. Any more comments, questions? Very good. All right, Joe, you want to talk about coordinating programs
in an area? That's kind of sensitive subject. The most recent experience I've had is, of course, in South Texas, where we run programs. Hi, Randy. Randy, you can, yeah, okay. And one thing that we do down there that perhaps people could use as an idea anyway, we get together and all the callers, and we make sure that we do not step on each other and present a session of the same level at the same time within 15 miles of each other, so that the dancers don't have to make a choice that way. So they can, if they want to dance plus 3 times in one day, they can go to 3 different callers, as opposed to having to make a choice and go, well, do I go this guy, or this guy at 1 o'clock? And we also include, there are 5 of us that have the larger halls. We also include all the callers in the area, and we have a website where people can cross-reference all the levels, all the dances, all the days, so that people do have a choice, and we make sure that they don't have to make a choice as to where they go to dance a certain level at a certain time, so they can. There's no stepping on each other's toes that way. So that's one thing that I really respect in the South Texas area. I'm sure you guys do it in Arizona and Florida, those areas, and in the home areas, I'm guessing that it's the same way. Hopefully, I realize that we're caller run in our area, and a lot of the areas are club run, so it is different. You have a little less control as a caller or a cuer, and but hopefully the idea of a master calendar is a good idea. I don't know if anybody does that anymore. That's kind of what we do in South Texas. It's kind of like a master calendar, so we can get together and make sure nobody steps on each other. So, how about your area?
I think, yeah, in my particular area, we're more clubs run the situation a little bit more. So most of the clubs have guest callers at each event, and so many of us will call for maybe a club one time a year, and then another club another time a year, or maybe more than one time a year. I try to make sure when I book things that I'm not booking, down in Orange County or a particular area on consecutive weeks or even in consecutive months. If I can spread that out, I actually do. It makes me, I have to turn over the pages and look back and forth. But the bottom line is that you try to spread that stuff out a little bit, and they have the ability to be flexible and work with other callers in your area when they get conflict or they have a problem. I think one of the things that I've seen over the last several years is that because we book so far in advance, very often there's a family event that all of a sudden comes up. There's something that happens, and it happens so quickly that you really can't just graciously get out of doing a dance or and so if there's lead time, you can call the club, you can work with the club, you can, but I've had callers in my area that have called me and said, my daughter's got this huge program that is happening on Friday. I have a dance at such and such. Do you have that? Could you cover that dance for me? And I'll cover the dance, and I'm not going to go into the great detail about the caller not being able to make it, but he had an emergency come up or a family situation, and I understand a situation like that, and it was just an event he couldn't miss. He felt like he needed to be there for his daughter, and so I filled in and don't make a big deal out of it. And it's the same thing has happened to me with things where you can't change it with the club, and so you go in there as a caller, replacing that caller, doing the best job you can, and you don't make a big deal. You're kind of covering for each other. Some would say that's a little bit underhanded, that we're not telling the truth about some things, but most of the clubs and most of the people understand, but there's always a handful that don't and make it really hard for that caller may never get booked back because he, stood the club up or whatever. So I think that there's a way that we can help each other as a brotherhood or sisterhood or, callerhood, whatever you want to call it, that we can help each other in those particular cases and those events. I know we do at classes because very often those classes and those teaching events come up really quick, and where you get sick or whatever it is, and you cover for each other. And I think that helps. That really, no matter what area, what type of area you live in, whether it's caller run or club run or association run or whatever, we can cover for each other in those situations and keep it under your vest a little bit.
Any comments, questions? Yeah?
Could I just disagree with one of the things you said? You all keep saying caller run. I really prefer the term professionally run.
Okay.
I like that.
Okay.
I like that.
I like it.
It kind of notches it up. It's kind of like beginner dancer and new dancer. There's a little. Yeah. Jerry Helt, really? I like it. Professionally run or club run?
So yeah, Brian Clark from Vancouver, Canada. One of the things I'd like to get you guys to comment on, and this is sort of on the same topic, but this more on the professional side of things. One thing that I learned, I guess, years ago from Dave Wilson, when I first went to Europe, was the whole concept of not undercutting the value of calling. And so if you're going to go into an area, you say, well, I haven't been in your area. I don't know what it's going to cost for you to bring me to the area. And the part that you charge them might be less than every other caller on the planet. And so they bring you in. And then they look at the other professional callers they bring in. They say, oh, well, Brian Clark will do it for half the price you will. And then you're like, oh, well, what a goof he is. And, so I'd like to get maybe a comment on how you guys would deal with that kind of stuff.
That's a great question, Brian. Not that I've done that. No. But that's a great question. And how would you know if you had not been in that area before, or if you don't have the conversation of what others do? I think if you've had the experience of not going to an area, I would call other callers who that have been there. Fortunately, we can deal with a lot of things by email these days, and we don't have to answer immediately on the phone. And because of that, we can do some research ahead of time and find out what is it, what does it take to get in there. First of all, how much is it to fly in? Are you paying your own airfare? Are they paying your own airfare? Are they booking your airfare? Are you staying with other people? Are you staying in hotels? Those kind of things. And I think that's a great question. I've found help personally just being able to contact other callers and say, what do you charge to do that? What is a reasonable rate? because very often there's people that they're trying to get you in for next to nothing, and I think that's. Let me just take off a second here and put on another hat for a second. I think one of the biggest things that's hurting square dancing today is the fact that we don't charge enough for what even the dancer walking through the door. And I know that that's a touchy subject, but we are in an activity where our consumer very often controls the cost of the door. There is nothing that you can do for $6 or $5 a person anymore on this planet for the kind of entertainment that we provide. And I think because of that, and my eyes got open to this at the 2001 National Convention when I did a session that said, where have all the square dance halls gone? And I came in there with this point of view that you're kind of hearing now, and the first people on the docket were dance leaders, president of the California Council, and they had a flip chart. And the lead thing was 1964, and they showed the price of square dancing, the price of a gallon of gas, the price of a loaf of bread, the price of bowling, and the price of milk or something like that. And they just showed those prices in 1964, and then they flipped it up. They went 1968. And then they showed the prices of all those things, and they flipped it up, and they went to 1972. And they just kept going until the year 2000. And the one that was on the bottom was square dancing. We were still charging in relation to everything else. We were way below everything else, even a gallon of milk and, a gallon of gas. And they said, and these are dancers. That's where the square dance halls have gone now, because we can't afford the halls that the ballroom dancers dance in. They play bingo in our square dance hall now, because they can afford to pay the rent on that particular hall. So we've aced ourselves out of some of the finest dancing places and ended up in Grange halls and wherever, church basements and everything else, because we don't charge enough for what we do. We've kind of based our activity on the fact that this is a cheap thing to do. And so I think when you charge $3 for a dance class, or $6 for a dance class, people kind of look at that and go, I guess that's not much of a dance class. I mean, those of you that have gone ballroom dancing know it's $15 or $20 an hour per person, paid in advance, for 6, 8, 10 weeks. So if we continue to not be looking at that down the line, we're going to see square dancing decline because we can't afford halls. We can't afford places to dances. One of the stories that I tell a lot is there was a caller in the Sacramento area that was a fine young caller coming up, and he had so much potential. And when I went back to call in that area, he had quit calling, and I said, he quit. Why did he quit? And I ended up, when I got home, I called him, and he said, listen, Mike, he said, I got a family, I got a young family. He said, I love calling, I love square dancing. He says, but I'm driving, on Monday night, I'm driving 50 miles to class, and they're paying me $50. And Tuesday night, I'm driving 25 miles to teach another class, and they're paying me $50. And he said, I'm away from my family, my young kids. He said, I have a good friend, a college buddy, that is a professional clown. And he said, and he makes $100 for a half an hour at a birthday party on a Saturday. And he kept trying to talk me into being a professional clown. He says, I quit square dance calling, and I'm a professional clown now. I make more money as a professional clown on Saturday and only work part of the day, and I'm done. He says, I do a few birthday parties, and I've made more money than I made square dance calling, and I'm home with my family. And that really made me think, man, if we're making more than, we're not making as much as professional clowns, we ought to be thinking about this a little bit. So, So I think we need to be more sensitive, and we need to work as leaders in this activity so that we can afford some of the nicer dancing halls, so that we can put on some events that people want to go to and are proud to go to, and where there's nice restrooms where, people would actually have toilet paper on the rolls and towels you can wipe your hands with and stuff like that. So I think being sensitive to that in the long run is going to help us a lot. I know that's getting off your subject, and probably
we could do square dance bingo. That might work. I don't know if that's legal, but we could try that.
We could try it.
I think one of my most unfavorite things about booking dances is bidding on a dance. How many have had to bid on a dance? I just absolutely hate that, because you're going head to head with another professional peer, and I just don't. Doesn't work for me. So I go right to I usually go right to the person who's trying to book and ask what their budget is, what they've been paying in the last few years. If they can't pay enough, I still tell them what I'm going to be charging, and if they can't afford it, I'm sorry. I'll stay home and watch TV with my wife or something. But not to be mean or anything like that, but you're correct. We do undervalue our talent and undervalue our activity, and that's what's going to happen.
And if they can only offer you a certain amount and you can't make a reasonable fee to go in there and do the dance, then they should be booking somebody who's closer, who maybe doesn't have airfare, who can drive in and not fly in, who, has family in the area they can stay with or whatever, that kind of thing. But Brian, your question is really valid, because that is an issue when someone else would come in and do the festival. And Joe's talking about that with bidding, because now with email, a person can send out 20 emails to 20 different callers and say, how much would you charge to do so and so? That's the question. Do you have that date open, and how much would you charge? And I think you've got to talk to others. Maybe we can. I guess if we talk to each other, we're price fixing or something, but.
And it's quite possible that they might hire somebody who could impersonate you and not hire you in person.
A clown. That would be a clown.
Thank you. Jeff Palmer, Colorado Springs. I was going to ask Brian, maybe this guy's more of a question than an answer, about contacting the other club that's hired before and see, what's your budget? What do you normally pay? Like you said, what have you covered over the past few years? As far as trying to cover the caller, bidding is tough, because they may not tell you they're doing that, and you could inadvertently hack off one of your partners without really meaning to, and that can certainly happen. It has happened. Another question I have, kind of off subject, is I work with some other callers quite a bit, and we call together quite a bit, and we have kind of worked out a routine, I guess, when somebody makes a mistake, okay, which happens. Like you get somebody crossed, or you get something messed up, call something they can't do, or whatever. So I'm just kind of curious what your approach is on stage working with other callers when that happens. I know what we do, but you guys tell us what you guys might do.
Jeff, tell us what you do. I'm curious. You got my attention here. So what do you guys do when something like that happens?
Well, obviously, you guys don't make any mistakes, so I had to do that. Normally, we just, give the cross finger sign, or, kind of let the guy know maybe he's gone a little too long, or kind of nudge him a little bit, or, grab your belt down here, or Hunter will punch you, or something of that nature. But normally, it's just something very, and I think the other thing that's kind of important is if somebody does make a mistake, they call something they just can't do from there, we do our best to make light of it. And not say, oh, that was stupid, or something. We already know it's stupid. Nobody needs to tell you that. So is to make light of it and make a joke out of it, or, something of that nature. Said, oh, that's the same thing you did last week. Are you trying to be a repeat caller? You're, that kind of stuff. And just make a joke out of it so the floor gets a laugh out of it, and it doesn't hurt the other caller, because they're good callers. Everybody makes mistakes.
Well, that's a win-win, Jeff. It really is a win-win, because, you're making light of it. The dancers will make light of it. You'll both win. Right.
Yeah, how many of us have missed the middle break, and then we end up into the third figure, and and then everybody's looking at you like, huh?
Last night?
Yeah. You're looking at you like, well, So, but make fun of it. Yeah, because we've all been there. We've all done that. So, Brian, did we answer that question? Or at least kind of address it a little bit more closely. I think that it's best, let's communicate a little bit. Let's email each other. Let's talk to each other. Let's get on the phone with each other. Let's talk to each other. And particularly about a particular festival. Or maybe I'm going into Richard Lane's areas and calling, and I don't know what's going on with the political situation in that area. And there may be more than one traveling caller coming in the same weekend, and I can call Richard and say, what should I do? What's your comment about this? What's the situation in that area? And he can give me the skinny on that. So I think that helps out. And we got a CALLERLAB roster, has our names and addresses on it, and call each other and say, hey, I met you at CALLERLAB a couple of years ago, and I could use some help here. Making a decision. What should I do? And I think that really helps out. So let me run a mic.
I'd like to shift the conversation a little bit from traveling callers and events and booking to talk a little bit about considerations for team teaching in areas. Joining 2-3 clubs together with 3 callers and teaching lessons when each club can probably put a square on the floor for lessons, but if you did 3 of you, you'd have 3 squares.
How many are doing that in your area? How many are doing team or taking several clubs together and making that work? Or how do you make that work? Glenn, can you talk about it a little bit? Yeah.
We were put in a situation in Olympia, Washington, by which we have one hall, 4 mainstream clubs. Of those 4 clubs, there's 3 callers, and nobody was making enough people for lessons. They were getting a square, they were getting 5 people, they were getting so forth, and we chose to join together and tell the clubs that say, look, if we don't do this, nobody's going to be able to make lessons. And it started to work. We are teaching a 10-week program with 2 callers twice a week, Tuesdays or Mondays and Thursday nights. Matter of fact, I miss a lesson Thursday night, and Don will be there to teach for me, and vice versa. It's working very well. The difficulty at first when Don and I started working together, Don Wood, was getting used to each other's teaching style. Because we had both had done it for many, many years, but you really don't think about how different people teach. I remember the first night I went to watch him teach a lesson, I went, oh my God, I'd never do it that way. And in that same night I said, oh my God, I wish I'd have learned how to do it that way. It's a real experience, and I think that as we get smaller, we're going to have to be creative in how we do things, and I just offer to you all, take a look at that as an option to how you teach lessons in your area by joining together rather than saying, by God, I've got a square and nobody else is going to get them.
Yes. Hunter?
We've been doing that for the last few years at home in Billings, and it's worked for my Thursday night group really, really well because that's when we have lessons. The problem is the Tuesday night club has suffered majorly because Thursday night's the night those folks dance. That's the night that works for them. And we've encouraged them to go on Tuesday nights. We haven't said, no, don't go. We've told them, please go. And they say, no, we can't because Tuesday nights don't work for us. So that's part of the issue we're having right now. So in the fall, we're running 2 classes. They're going to cover the same thing every week. So Tuesday and Thursday night, if you miss Tuesday and you have Thursday available, you can go. Or if Thursdays don't work for you, you can go Tuesday night. But that way it builds up, and they can choose whatever night they go to. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. They're all going to come dance anyway. There's not a whole lot of callers left back home to, okay, I'm it. So they can come dance. I don't care where they dance as long as they have a good time and do it. So we tried the whole, council approach to the council's putting on lessons, and they're going to be free on Tuesdays for 6 weeks, and then we're going to, teach them for the rest of the year on Tuesday nights. Oh, well, Tuesday nights, now the club wants their night back, so we're going to move them to Thursdays. We're going to move them to Thursdays, and then all of a sudden half the people drop out because Thursdays didn't work for them. So that's the only issue that we've had. So we're going to go back the other way. We're going to try each club having their own, and if like when I'm out of town on Tuesday nights, there's another caller that's about a half hour away that subs for me, and he's a really good teacher, and we chat a lot about stuff. It's all about the communication. You have to say, this is what I've taught them. This is the way that I taught them. If you teach them something different, that's fine. Just explain to them that there's different teaching styles. So.
Very much so. Yeah. Charlie and Buddy.
Back in our area, we did a Friday night beginners class. Used 4 different callers. We got our calendars together to find out who had the most availability on the first, second, and so on. And then every 5th, we gave them a party night, and all the callers that were available called a little dance for them, so rewarded them. But again, it was communication, and we had to do it with our calendars and everything. But a Friday night class was good because some people didn't have to get up the next day to go to work or anything like that, and they enjoyed the party aspect of the Friday night. But communicating with the local callers, we put a lesson plan together, and it was successful, and then we lost all.
So all of you put the lesson plan together, so you knew what you were teaching each night, and
we kept a perpetual list.
Kept that list going between you. That communication, Buddy.
in the whole idea of working together, we've seen up in the North San Diego area where you had two callers who are doing most of the teaching, and they're good buddies, and they work off the same list. And it's a trickle-down theory. When you have the callers who get along with each other, then the club presidents started getting along with each other. Then they started coordinating their schedules. So rather than everybody fighting each other, now what they're doing is they'll take two clubs that are geographically separated by about maybe 30 minutes drive time, but they pool their resources for advertising purposes. And then you'll have 6 months later two other clubs that are somewhat separated geographically who pool their resources. The two callers work off the same teaching program so that when class level dances occur on a monthly, 2 times a month, in fact, everybody's on the same sheet of music. I'm stepping into that, and I'm perfectly willing to just work right along with what the other callers are doing. Work well with others, and it seems to trickle down. And likewise, I've seen areas where the callers don't work well with others, and that seems to trickle down as well.
But he's absolutely right. We lead by example, and if we're getting along and things are working well, and we're complimenting each other, because very often you're asked, well, what do you think about this? And I don't want to step on anybody else. I'm not walking in their shoes at that time, and I'm going to be as complimentary as I can to him. I'm sure he had good reasons for doing that, and thank you very much. All right, thank you very Richard.
Richard Lane, Portland, Oregon. When I did my winter program in Arizona, Craig Rowe and Jerry Jess and I decided one year we'd teach lessons together. Have 6 tips, we each rotate around. We start out with 12 squares, but here's the kicker. Joe, you work with retired people. You get free, you get food. You don't have halls big enough, you get free and food. Lock the doors. So here's what we did. We said free lesson, but here's the kicker. We made up business cards with each of our names on it. So we teach these 5 calls. Now, they come to my dance for 1 hour before one of my dances. They pay $1. We practice for an hour. I punch their card. 2 out of 3 gets punched. Your next week, your lesson's free. But what that did for them, it created friendships. We're going to go to Joe's on Tuesday night, and afterwards we'll play cards. And also, when they got done with lessons, they aren't new dancers scared to death to go to their first dance. They've been to 20 dances. We had 12 squares. We did not lose one dancer. So that's working together, and it really worked well.
It provides that glue that keeps them together. Yes.
And those are professionally run.
Yes. All right.
I'm trying to learn this new.
I like the lingo. I think it's good. It's a good phrase. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
That was a Jerry Helt thing.
Won't forget where it came from.
Right?
It came from Jerry Helt through you.
That's you. All right.
All right.
Gary Felton, you and Bill Harrison also co-run a beginner class. Can you tell us a little bit about what you did?
Long before we started, we put a list together and we argued about it for a while. Then we did it his way. That's not true. But we talk once or twice a week, and we always talk right after the dance, so that it's still fresh in your mind. This little concept was a little difficult for couple number or whatever their names are. It's important to debrief yourself right after the dance. I do it on email and send it to him. He'll call me right after the dance on his way home, so that we communicate every week about things that went right and things that went wrong, people that need some help. So it's a lot of communications.
All right. Joe, anything else? Is there anything else we didn't cover in this? How about filling in at a workshop or event? How many times have you had in a situation where you're teaching a class, you can't make that night, or you're sick or something, you call somebody? Being able to give them the information that they need to walk into your tip, who to talk to, who's the people that are in charge. If you've got that ability, and we do have a tremendous tool with email that we can type something up. I would even recommend that ahead of time, if you know there's going to be some weeks you're going to miss and you're going to be knowing that you're going to be looking for other callers, write down who your class coordinator is. What's a good setup in the hall for your sound? Does it just need a small speaker? Does it need a big speaker? How many squares does it hold? How many are there people that are having problems? Well, you're gonna, it's like I got 2 guys in my class that can't find their feet, and we try to keep them in separate squares or whatever. Help them out a little bit. Help the person that's coming in to fill out for you, and that communication is so important. It really makes a big difference, and so that kind of helping somebody fill in so that they're just not left with to fend for themselves, that you can make it the best you can for your group.
Whenever we have someone coming in, and once or twice we're both booked and we can't get there, I try to sit down. 3 weeks ago I taught this. 2 weeks ago I taught this. Last week I taught this. Here were the problems each week, so that you give them a little bit of history to see where the dancers are, as well as the whole teaching order that we were using, so that they have an idea coming in and can actually prepare instead of just show up.
Yeah, I think if you have your own club, professionally run club, that then somebody else is coming in as it's interesting. We had a program with a club that I taught with for a number of years, and every other tip at their dance is a mainstream tip and then a plus tip. And when they first started this, the dances in the area, predominantly plus area, said, we're not going to go dance over there because we'd only get to dance every other tip plus, and every other tip is for their mainstream. Well, it was actually every other tip was for new dancers. We wanted everybody that was in class to come and join us. And so we made that not a mainstream tip, but whatever the program was. And because I was teaching the class, I'd always email where I was in the class to the caller so they could come in. And what it turned out is that mainstream tip not only turned out for new dancers, but turned out for our senior dancers that really had a hard time, keeping up at the plus program, but they knew that we were going to keep the entire floor dancing at that mainstream tip there. And then the plus tips got better because we had a more solid floor. We didn't have people on the many people on the floor that were dancing the plus tips that were just dancing at the edge or maybe not able to keep up. And so that program really worked out well. The club still does it, and I just found by communicating with because it was guest callers, whatever guest caller was coming in, I'd shoot them an email and let them know what I taught at the time and tell them, hey, the philosophy is just the mainstream tip is keeping the dancers going, keep everybody on the floor moving, have fun with them, but let's keep everybody going. And then the plus tip, you can let the hammer down a little bit more than you could normally.
Hey, Mike, at a recent festival that I just called on the East Coast, they had a new hall, and it was called Relaxed Dancing. And it's something new I'd never heard of before. There was no level. It was just, you slowed it down about 15 beats a minute, I guess. It was very slow. It was very interesting. But I don't know if it's a sign of the times, but that it's called Relaxed Dancing. So, and it was a full-time hall.
That's great.
So it's interesting.
That's great.
So it gives us another place for people to dance.
You betcha. That may be something down the line.
Both squares had a great time. Yeah.
The question is, and even we're seeing a lot more festivals that have new dancer halls, and I think if you have the ability to encourage that, let's get our new dancers out dancing our weekends with us. It's a great way for those people to have a great time and get kind of indoctrinated to a square dance weekend. I think that's a big thing. Jet, you work with a lot of different callers, and you work with a lot of different festivals. Is there anything we missed, or anything that
Going back to the money issue about how much people are charging to get in, I just had this situation just the other night. They're charging $8 a person to get into a Saturday night dance. They're getting fed food. They're getting an hour of pre-rounds and 3 hours of dancing for $8. I said, you know what? I've been doing this all my life, and you're selling me for $8. So I think that's my issue with it, and I've explained it, that, I feel like a hometown buffet or something. I'm worth $8 for 40 years, so I don't know. That might be a way to approach that.
Yeah, but Jet, we go places where they're selling your body for $6.
Wait a second. Say that again now.
Yeah. It's Aaron Byers from Sacramento. We go places, a lot of them are in Colorado, and they're still charging $5 and $6 at the door. And I mean, I agree. This should be an inexpensive activity, but by the same token, we're worth a whole lot more.
Well, I think it not only affects, because there's a lot of work that goes into calling, but and we need to think about the future, because there's got to be something out there for the person that's starting to call. Can they make enough money to make this work, to either afford their equipment to get to the dances, or are they just beating their head against the wall?
So, Aaron, my question is, how do you sell that? How do you sell to dancers who we have set ourselves up, I think, and Mike said very well, we've set ourselves up to always be a very inexpensive recreation. We are now at a point to say, well, we're no longer inexpensive. We're going to be expensive. How do we make, I'm telling you, in my area, to raise the price per dancer to go to a dance by 50 cents is a major undertaking. I don't know how to do it. I'm open for suggestions.
I think we need to be leaders. We need to say that, you know, there's a tremendous amount of inflation. You know, the consumer price index is going up this year. I mean, we're going to see inflation. We're post-recession. We're going to see inflation. We got to be realistic as this inflation hits the U.S. Because it's going to happen, and we're not going to be able to afford. I mean, how often do you hear the people say with a hall, we can't afford the hall anymore. You know, we're looking for something else, and so then we compromise the facility, and people don't like to go there. It's not in a good part of town. God, their car gets broken into in the parking lot, you know. So what are we doing? We're setting ourselves up for people dropping out of the activity. We're also setting ourselves up for new people coming into the calling profession. Guys, the 60% of the caller membership is over 65. That's scary to me. We need, as callers, to be out there getting dancers who are dance leaders or people that we see that would become callers to become a caller and encourage them to join us. We need callers. We're going to need callers in the future. And if we don't have something out there and we don't provide the leadership now to the clubs, that we need to pay it forward, and so we have an activity down the line. And that means we need to charge enough so that we can afford a hall that's halfway decent, so that we can afford refreshments, so we can afford to have a caller come in, because there's a lot of work to this calling thing, and we're all here trying to continue our education, and it's important that we treat it like that.
We had a situation in our area a few years back where nobody would charge anymore because they were scared that the few people that we had coming would not come anymore. So a club just decided to make an example and start doing that. So they did. They went from $3 to $5, and everybody fussed and griped about it for almost a year. And now the ones that were griping and the ones that were fussing the most are the ones that are charging more, because they see that that's the only way they were going to survive. And they cared about their clubs enough to set that example and make it work. So somebody has to stand up sometimes in the area and say, you know, it's going to be tough for a while, but you're not going to go to a movie for $5 or $8. And I'm talking about just local dances. I'm not talking about festivals. You know, you're not going to go out to eat. Well, maybe the Happy Meal, but there's a lot of things you can't do for $5 or $8 or even $10 now. So
I'm telling you, I'm talking about dancers that have done it for 30 years and have done it on the cheap. And in our kit situation, we have a hall with 4 mainstream clubs in it. Not one of those clubs is going to step up and do it, because the others will say, well, what are you trying to do? I don't think it's as easy as we make it sound. Maybe for you guys that are traveling it is, but for those of us in the local areas, it's like, holy mackerel, how do we do this? And number two, my next question is, what's the right number?
I think you can do that by looking at what the cost of dancing was back in 1980, and what the cost of a gallon of gasoline was. What was the cost of a movie ticket? What was the cost to go bowling, to bowl one game? And just write that out. And as a group of callers, say, listen, this is where we are. This is why we can't afford that hall. That's why we're not dancing there anymore. This is why we can't afford refreshments, or that's why we can't afford an air-conditioned hall anymore, or we can't. And I think as leader, the callers need to band together and say, we've been in this a long time, as long as you've been dancing, but the reality is we got to wake up, and if we're going to have dancing in the future in this area, this is what we need to do. Okay? Brian, I think, was first, and then Jet.
So very quickly, you changed the price, and then collectively you blame Obamacare.
Yeah, there we go. We actually have dancers now saying raise the price. We, Joe and I had a weekend that we was doing, and the numbers were there, but the expenses were so high we was considering going away, getting rid of the weekend. And all the dancers came forward and said, we'll pay more. And they did. I mean, we're up to $50 a person for the weekend, which
and it was
really good
35.
now. And we had another one Same scenario just happened back in March with Jerry and I. The dancer said, we'll pay more just to keep it going. And in our area now, for a Saturday night dance, we're $10 to $10 in our area. Bay Area is $12 to $15 a person. So, that's getting up there. And I'm just down in your area down there, and you guys are $8 was what I was getting. That's when I had my little blow up about hometown buffet.
Jet, don't you think the secret is doing it in increments? However, yeah, you can't just double it all of a sudden. You will lose people.
No, but I think it goes to anybody running a business. If your rent goes up in your store, you have to pass that on to your consumer. And we're in the same position right now. We've got to provide the lead and just be honest. It's not like you're trying to make any more money. The last time the halls went up, it was like where we're gonna take that out of your percentage. Or this extra dollar that we're charging now goes to the hall. So we took a cut of pay there, and I think most of us just swallowed it. But the reality is now we're in another. The cost is going up. We got to be realistic. We got to see things.
2012, we started our newer dancer program. We were running 6 and 7 newer dancer times a year. We started out at $10. Everybody says Smith's going to get rich off of that. Okay, but they came. We're running anywhere from smallest dance I had was 6 squares. We left there Saturday night with 10 squares at the newer dancer hoedown. And in our area, most of the things with ribbons, $12. Without ribbons is 15. That's Santa Clara, California. And and basically but we've had to change. We can't use our John Muir anymore. $491 for a hoedown. For the hall. So anyway.
Okay. We took over a club about 2 years ago, and they were charging a lot less than I thought they should because we were getting a percentage, and you know what that does to your percentage. But what we did was we said, we'd like you as a club to consider raising the price, and we raised the price $2, which was a big jump for them. And we sat down, I sat down, someone else was out of town, and I sat down and we had a discussion about it, and then they voted as a club, and the vote was to raise the price and to raise the minimum, both. We didn't want that part, but they put it in anyway, so we smiled and took it. But the club discussion brought out, well, oh yeah, that price went up, and the club themselves were able to come up with the idea that, yeah, maybe prices have gone up. So hold that discussion with your club. Ends up being their idea, and that's instant buy-in.
Absolutely right. We didn't mean to take this and turn it into this kind of a discussion on price, but I think we're all looking to see this activity carry on and pass this activity on to the next generation. And we got to provide the leadership at this time. And this is part of it, working in the communication with the clubs as well as the communication with each other. But working that way and keeping that mutual respect, and with that goal in mind, I think we can carry this out and really do it well.
That's great.
I want to thank Joe Saltel for being here. And
thank you, Mike.
Enjoyed it. Thank everybody for your input.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for all your input. Appreciate it.
Have a great rest of the convention.